Capelli. The Marches haven't done anything this weekend. Martin Donnelly, the same can be said for the Lotus team. Olivier Griard is out. Gregor Foytek had the big crash that left the debris on the racetrack that David spoke of. There's Nigel Mansell, who started 17th. Said he didn't have high hopes for this race after his balky transmission prevented him from getting more than a few laps on the racetrack at any one time. But once again, as he did a year ago in Hungary, he is really moving through the field. There is Nelson Piquet, the man directly in front of him in 4th position. Let's take a look at the gap.
Well, the gap officially is about 2 seconds. Now, the thing is, if these two guys don't exactly hit it off, they're not bosom buddies. Nigel and, smoke coming out the back of Mansell's car then on the overrun as he turned into that corner. Mansell and Piquet, of course, were on the same team, the Williams team, and they had the Honda engines, the absolutely all-powerful Honda engines, just 3 years ago, and they got on, to say the least, poorly. So I guess that when Nigel catches up with Piquet, he's going to be saying, you can find your own way back, my little boy, and what's wrong with I don't know.
Nigel Mansell, the 8th car, the Brabham with Stefano Modena.
Hanging in well, actually. Stefano Modena's driven a very, very good race this afternoon.
Exactly my point. The Brabham team, as I mentioned, changed hands earlier this week. They came to this race to avoid a $250,000 fine. They got here at midnight on Thursday. Nelson Piquet getting around Guzman there. There is a look at Nigel Mansell. He says one of the things he likes best about coming to America is there's no hassle. Formula One guys aren't that well known over here.
Smoke coming out the back of Nigel's car again. Quite bad. I just saw it for the last lap. Bit more than pumped. Now that could be a pretty bad sign for our Nige, because already one of these Ferraris has bitten the dust after extensive smoke laying. Nigel's doesn't look that bad yet, but where there's a little, there's often a lot. And we'll have to watch very carefully to see how Nigel's chart continues.
22 laps remaining in the 72-lap Iceberg U.S. Grand Prix. More smoke from the Ferrari. Now, in case you're wondering what Iceberg represents, there's a sign that tells you. It's a sportswear company. And they have plastered Phoenix, Arizona with all sorts of advertising. Everybody wondered why Iceberg got involved. You couldn't find the clothes in this country a year ago, but they have arrived in Arizona, I can tell you.
Well, one way they could really get the word out would be to outfit you and I so we can strut around the world wearing it. Good try. Look at that smoke. Yeah, there it is. So after he's had the overrun, as soon as he opens the gas to accelerate out of the corners, it comes out the back. Looks to us as if it's coming from the same spot as the grass. This could indicate it's coming out the gearbox. Very hard to tell from here. Senna, of course, is now back to his usual 15-second lead. And Boutsen is hanging in there just about 40 seconds behind Alesi, and Nelson Piquet and Nigel Mansell are about 28 seconds.
And he's got fire!
Blown up.
The Ferrari goes away about as dramatically as it possibly could. What a piece of driving.
Now then, as he laid a lot of oil on the approach to that corner, which he spun on his own oil, half spun. I bet that got his attention.
My goodness. All I could think of was when the tire exploded back in 1987.
I bet he can too.
Nigel missed out on the championship. Let's take another look.
There's it, accelerating up to the gears. A little wisp of smoke comes, and then suddenly a huge eruption of smoke and flame. Little wisp and woof.
Oh, my.
Are his wheels stopped? The back wheels stopped?
I've got to believe he laid oil down because the flame left behind.
I think if that was his gearbox, it probably locked the transmission up and couldn't see whether the wheels were going around or not. There doesn't seem to be a great deal of oil behind him there.
Wow. Dramatic moment there for Nigel Mansell, who will leave the Ferrari on the racetrack to take the longest walk in racing back to the pits about a mile away down the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. We'll be right back. But we have a long way still to go here in the Iceberg U.S. Grand Prix on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. Let's get down to the pit lane now, where you have dramatic developments in the McLaren camp.
Well, Gerhard Berger has arrived back in the pits. They immediately push the car into the garage, which is a little bit strange. They're working on the car in the garage. No, they have stopped working on the car. Everything is quiet in the garage. Gerhard Berger is out of the car. He's talking to Joe Ramirez, his chief mechanic. We'll try and get a word with Gerhard and find out exactly what went wrong. But right now, the Austrian is out. Grand Prix of the United States in Phoenix.
Well, tough break for Gerhard Berger, but he was familiar with breakdowns during his Ferrari years. Meanwhile, your leader is Ayrton Senna.
Boy, poor old Gerhard, he must be saying to himself, oh no, not again. moved away from Ferrari to get away from all that sort of stuff.
Now, just a moment ago, while we were away, one of the LaRousse cars got passed by the teammate. Aguri Suzuki went by, and Eric Bernard, trying to let him get by, managed to get out on the marbles and looped it.
That is, in fact, exactly the same place that Gerhard Berger went into those tyres very early on in this race. Absolute miracle, that car of his actually came off those tyres. When you saw the belt on the replay, when it hit those tyres, the miracle didn't break something.
Right now, Ayrton Senna is firmly in control of this race. He's pulling away by almost a second a lap. His gap now 13.7 seconds over Jean Alesi. It's another 37 seconds back to Terry Boutsen, 27 seconds more to Nelson Piquet, then Stefano Modena, 6.7 seconds further in arrears. Modena has now taken over 5th place after Nigel Mansell went out in such an extraordinary fashion.
Well, not a good debut for Ferrari, but then their arch rival McLaren down to 1 out of 2, so let's keep our fingers crossed for.
Look at the soiling on the front of that car.
Yeah.
Debris and oil all over the McLaren.
You can see where that lower wing plane on the back there has had a real sandblasting too. Look at it.
Now, because these cars are virtually identical, Ayrton Senna's machine is just like Berger's, and if Berger had a problem, it's a pretty safe bet that the same thing may haunt Mr. Senna. So this one is far from over. But at this point, Mr. Senna seems firmly in control. 17 seconds ahead of Jean Alesi. There is the second place car, and no matter what happens to this guy, Jean Alesi at age 25 has driven immaculately in only his 9th Formula One race. He led this race soundly. He took no stick at all from Ayrton Senna, and now he runs in second position. Here's the third place car, carrying one of our in-car cameras today. Terry Boutsen of Belgium doing well.
Terry Boutsen, of course, in the brand new Williams with the new Renault engine, which is lighter and more powerful than last year's. Again, a V10. But they're not going really just as well as they hoped, I'm sure. They've done a lot of testing over the winter. McLaren did very little and certainly kept it very quiet. But boy, it certainly seemed to pay off what little bit they did. But the Williams people must be just a little bit worried that although Thierry's in third, here's the further up.
Fourth place car, excuse me, David. Nelson Piquet in the Benetton. At this point, it looks like he will score in his debut with the Benetton team.
Bit loose there, coming around that last long corner.
He is certainly trying. There's the 5th place car now. Stefano Modena, way in the back there. That is the last car on the lead lap.
And in fact, coming into your picture in the top, I think, is Nelson. There's Ayrton Senna.
So it is Senna, Alesi, Boutsen, Piquet, Modena, Satoru Nakajima, 1 lap down. Aguri Suzuki, Riccardo Patrese, who pitted, Pierluigi Martini, who also made a pit stop, and Eric Bernard, who you saw spin just a moment ago. 2 laps down, Michele Alboreto, Sandro Nannini, Bernd Schneider, Paolo Barilla. Nigel Mansell, the last car to drop out of the race. And there is Barilla. Barilla moved by to let Mr. Modena come through.
Poor old Riccardo Patrese just went by, sounding absolutely dreadful. Sounds to me as if his exhaust pipe's broken.
Here is Pierluigi Martini, who still has a shot at a couple of places in front of him. He is running in 9th position, but Riccardo Patrese and Aguri Suzuki are just ahead of him. So he could move up. But remember, points scored only in the top 6 positions. 9 points for a victory, 6 points for second, 4 for third, 3 for fourth, 2 for fifth, and 1 point for 6th position. Pierluigi Martini has a long way to go. He is a lap down to the last man on the lead lap, Stefano Modena. Senna is your leader. Phoenix, Arizona, the heart of the Valley of the Sun. A town of about 800,000 people, not including Scottsdale, Mesa, Tempe, some of the surrounding areas. Today hosting the first round of 16 of the 1990 Formula One World Championship. Bob Barsha, David Hobbs, Marty Reed, and John Bizignano with you. Ayrton Senna, your leader by 19 seconds now over astonishing young Frenchman Jean Alesi. Another 35 seconds back is Terry Boutsen in the Williams. 32 seconds behind him, Nelson Piquet, who is coming under fire for 4th place from Stefano Modena, the young Italian, just a second behind in the Brabham. And in 6th position, the final points-paying position of the race, Satoru Nakajima of Japan. He is a lap down. Let's get down to John Bizignano.